about what President Bola Tinubu has said and done in terms of the people, the couple of people he has put together to manage, advise, and execute economic policies in the country. Of course, he is the chair of that PECC now, and there are three layers of those structure system that he has put together. Part of it also contains the role of the private sector players, which, of course, I said earlier, we've seen some very vibrant women and some young persons also in that team. Of course, we'll be talking about the state of the nation and the economy and the way to go forward for Nigeria. You can see the Presidential Economic Coordination Council, the PECC, the Economic Management Team, Emergency Task Force, the Economic Management Team, EMT, all of these put together. Of course, we'll be showing you some of the list of those persons. Let's speak with Professor Utomi, who is live with us from the Victoria Island area of Lagos. Thank you so much, Prof, and it's good to see you again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Maybe before I take you into national issues, let me take you, because I know that at some point you had some intervention on the Labour Party and the ongoings, the leadership issues. But are you happy with the manner in which things ended? And perhaps those who are objecting to the emergence of Mr. Abure as the national chairman of the Labour Party?
Shehu, part of the tragedy of the Nigerian condition is that you wonder how we managed to come up with a generation that does not focus on the big picture, on the future, and somehow has managed to get consumed with instant gratification, personal gain, me, myself, and I, and somehow don't care whether the country goes anywhere. You would think that by being around and showing example, and they see you, they see that everything you do is sacrificial, that they would learn something. But some poison has been planted in Nigeria, I would dare say, an obsession with money, power, and ego. And this is setting our country back so badly. And if you look at every political party, you see the same problems. And so I feel kind of down in spirit that these shenanigans would continue to go on, that instead of wanting a broad base to use to transform the country, people are acting in ways that can preserve personal privilege and prevent, actually, really truly prevent the country from making progress. It's a tragedy that this is the lot that we have. It's part of the collapse of culture that came with oil. I was listening to you and your last guest, and that is the same reason all these things are happening. Until the Nigerian elite comes to a certain understanding that there is a collapse of culture and that the country is dying because truly, truly values shape human progress, and there has been a collapse of culture. Until we go through a certain moral rearmament, a certain revival of, character. I'm sorry, Nigeria is not going anywhere.
Prof, I mean,
I do understand.
Yeah. You wonder that your light, Mr. Peter Obi, you were not there at the National Convention. Does that invalidate?
Was there a National Convention?
There was one in
Was there a
Inewi.
National Convention?
We saw Mr. Abure and some other leaders of the party there. What exactly is going on?
Well, I think... Well,
is there an hijack of the party?
Well, that's the point I'm trying to make to you, that hustling has replaced thinking. National interest, has been subverted by a me, myself, and I grab, because power has been defined in Nigeria as an opportunity for state capture and use of public resources for the good of the individual. And look at where we are in everything we do. Look, Shehu, I am told that the IMF just put out a ranking of African countries by GDP, and Nigeria is not even in the top 10. It's just not on the list at all. And the elite of Nigeria can't sit down and say, what has happened to us? What have we done to ourselves? People are still carrying on, looking for position, looking for power, looking for money. This money that has ruined everything, ruined us all. I don't know. I'm not sure that we're ready to make progress, quite frankly.
And Prof, you know, you were at the vanguard of raising the hands of Mr. Peter Obi, preaching how Peter Obi could change Nigeria using the Labour Party platform. And I was asking the question, maybe you are not able to answer directly. The question is the Labour Party, or has the Labour Party been hijacked? Or what exactly is going on?
Hijacked by who? I mean, like in all the political parties, characters are playing all kinds of games to prevent Nigeria from seeing the light. It's happening in every political party. And you see Nigeria falling and falling apart, but they don't care. They are so absorbed by self that they will do anything, exclude everybody, play any game, invent constitutions and all kinds of things. But like I said to you, we'll eventually find out whether there was a convention. As far as I'm concerned, if Nigerian people don't want to build a nation, what's the big problem? Let everybody go to his father's house. Let's walk away. Let's go and live in our small communities. We can survive without Nigeria, you know. But the elite of Nigeria are so narcissistic, are so destructive of the possibilities of progress in Nigeria that I have switched off. Quite frankly, Shehu, I was saying to you before I came on, my gaze is at the continental level now. I'm not looking at Nigeria anymore. Because to look at Nigeria would be a heartbreaker, to just give yourself a heart attack. Let it drift to Somalia if that's where the people want to go.
You don't have a choice. Some of us, you are Nigeria's part.
No, I have a choice.
And you,
yeah, I have a
as
choice.
far as some of us who are your friends are concerned, you do not have a choice in this matter. Nigeria will be great in our time, Prof, and we will all play our roles, Prof. Don't be tired. And that's why I'll get to a conversation.
50 years of my life has been given for that. But look, hey, after all of it, what's there to show for it? Characters popping out from anywhere, trying to grab to things, not thinking about their own children. Oh, I want to get this. Where did they die? Nothing to show for it.
So let me ask you,
a couple of SUVs.
Yeah. Prof, I'll take you to some of the proposition of a change of system of government. But from your economic knowledge, share with us tonight. The team that the president has put together, putting an elite team together and the crop of people that we have and the segmentation, what do you make of it?
Well, Shehu, first of all, to be very honest with you, I don't have the information on the team, but it really doesn't matter. It's slightly more than about teams. I've just written a book. I don't know if you've had a chance to read my new book on power, politics, public policy process, and performance. And you will see why repeatedly attempts at reform in Nigeria have not worked. You will see that ultimately there's a process thing, and there are, political power games in players within the process. And the nature of how we manage those games are far more important than even the ideas that get put forward many times. Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, after turbocharged entry into the scene, ended up writing a book about reforming the unreformable. The Nigeria story is about reforming the unreformable. The naked truth, if you look at our history, is why did we make progress between self-government coming 1957 and 1960? Why was it that colonial Nigeria deliberately failed to industrialize Nigeria, but the independence fathers, in taking over by 1957, could go from a no industrialization Nigeria, perhaps 2 factories, in all of Nigeria in 1956. Federated Motor Industries, I believe, and Nigerian breweries or whatever. And by 1960, manufacturing was 20% of GDP. Why is it that the agricultural revolution in Western Nigeria and Northern Nigeria and Eastern Nigeria took place in those early 60s with the farm settlements and all of those? Why did all of those things happen dramatically, even without the kind of resources that we have now? Pastor Kibo will tell you in the public philosophy of development in Nigeria about how the savings or reserves that were built up in London by the various regional marketing boards, how they were drawn down between 57 and 1960. And the industrial transformative outcome of that. Even a Chinese woman, Irene Sun, will write about beginnings of industrialization, how in Kaduna in 1960, we got a factory set up by Hong Kong Chinese that broke even in 1 month and exported its first 6 months production, bought up by merchants in Manchester in England. What happened to that Nigeria? Why is it unable to produce today? It's not about lack of policies. It's not about who is in the economic management team. Sometimes that is even a disaster. I mean, this business of bringing leading private sector people into what they call economic management team, consultation is very important. The best thesis that I have seen about development in Africa comes out of the Aga Khan Foundation conference of 1985 about the tripartite approach to development, in which there's a private sector, public sector, and so-called PDAs or NGO sector collaborating in certain ways where each person's strength works together. But keeping private sector people, what they call economic management team, is sometimes farcical because those you are trying to regulate are the ones making the regulation for themselves. Monopolists are there. How will they talk about laws, that antitrust laws, when they are themselves monopolists? So there are many things we need to think through beyond the drama of how we set up teams. And so there are fundamental issues to work through. But the important thing is the spirit and how people work at it. It doesn't really matter what formula, what nature of the team. If there's real honest commitment, what happened between 57 and 64 will happen again. If it is just show, if the values of the people are not aligned to making Nigeria a great country, it will still amount to a waste of time.
Prof, let me
no
jump in quickly.
There's no wrong. Everything is possibly good.
Yeah. Let me ask you, and I know, if I delve into it, I might be touching into a very sensitive part of you when it comes to your economic knowledge. But I need, for the sake of our viewers tonight, if you can tell us, maybe, just maybe, we're on the right track. And if this government is doing the right things and touching on the right nerves to agitate or to propel the economy forward, what do you think about the trajectory in which we have begun over the last 9 months or so?
You can approach problems from different perspectives. The people who talk about a Big Bang approach, the people who think that Big Bang is destructive, the people who would therefore that you progress. But the Big Bang can work. And the approach of a modulated engagement can probably even work much better. It all depends on the context and all of that. So everything should be given time to be seen through, to then evaluate. I think to rush to prescribe that this was right or this is wrong, I think is not the way to go. The naked, sad truth is that we are way, way, way behind those that we started out with, those we started out ahead of. And for me, fundamentally, at the core of it is the collapse of culture in Nigeria, our values. I give you a simple example. Look at what Egypt has done under its current president. I mean, I'm not just talking about the new Cairo, the infrastructure everywhere, the way the power initiative has been managed and all of that. But just look at the number of SUVs that run around you guys in Abuja and the ones that run around in Cairo. I've told the story of arriving in Cairo with a group of senior bank executives in Nigeria were in the same hotel. They had ordered a serious car to take them to the meeting the following day. So that serious car turned out to be something like a Toyota Corolla, and they were very infuriated. And for them in Cairo, hey, that's a serious car, you know. For the Nigerian big man, that is a joke. It has to be a huge SUV to take them. And so you get government officials squander the wealth of the nation in buying themselves all kinds of fancy imported cars, and they've not looked at development, and poor people are hungry. Look, Shehu, the problems are too fundamental. It's not about an economic team, it's about elite consciousness to determine what really is our country. Where do we want to take it?
How do we get that out? How do we get that working? How do we get that elite consensus?
Well, first of all,
I know that government at the top needs to also drive that conversation, doesn't it? Is the government really trying to trigger that elite consensus narrative that you portray, that you're talking about?
It starts with the example of the government officials. Again, I keep going back, and please pardon me on this, I keep going back to General Obasanjo. I gave him a lot of trouble as a young student leader back in the 70s. But I'm ever so admiring of him. When oil prices went down one notch, General Obasanjo, as head of state, declared low profile because our incomes were down. He said, you know, we're going to cut our coats according to our cloth, not according to our size. He came down as head of state to Peugeot 504. Everybody else went below that. But look at the motorcades of even legislative leaders in Nigeria. I mean, something has gone so fundamentally wrong with the culture of leadership. Leadership is about sacrifice. It's not about taking the people's. Look at the kinds of. I'm so glad for Alex Uti and what he has done with the pensions that the former governors gave themselves. We should do that across the board. We draw all these houses they built for themselves. It is thievery. These men should be in jail for doing these things. To use public resources like that is to show that you don't have conscience.
So, Prof, if President Tinubu were to do something that you think will get us in the right direction, what would that be?
That's, first of all, getting everybody to say, hey, we're here to serve people, not for our personal convenience and glory. We cut all the frills. We really go to work. And we focus on production. What do we do to create industrial parks, small estates around the country? We bring together young entrepreneurs, sources of financing, and go to work as a country based on our factor endowments across the country. Let us produce and produce our way out of poverty. Look, exchange rates. You can play games one way or the other, and exchange rates can go this way, go that way. The only thing that manages to make it happen in the final analysis is how you produce, and how you produce what others want from you, usually based on your factor endowments, which give you a latent comparative advantage. Is it latent comparative advantage that gets translated into ultimately foreign income, foreign reserves, and the strengthening of your exchange rate if that is your big problem? See, I just came back from Taiwan. I was driving around this small country of 24 million people, nearly 1.6 million entrepreneurs and SMEs, and exporting like crazy. And I'm asking myself, why? The Gini coefficient in Taiwan, I used to teach with it many years ago, in the 50s. A few people had so much money, most people were poor. Today, the Gini index in Taiwan is so narrow because everybody's making money, everybody's striving. But elite consciousness in Nigeria is not in that direction. It's how everybody else can look like a a pauper and a few people live like kings. That is false consciousness.
So,
that keeps countries down.
Yeah. So you and your friends are proposing a parliamentary system of government, which you think might be a perfect fit for the Nigeria that we want. Why?
Many reasons. First of all, accountability is so missing in this current arrangement. It's so bad. In a parliamentary system, accountability increases. First of all, the fact that the people are close to government by the fact that their direct representatives get to parliament. Those direct representatives pick one amongst them to lead them, and they're constantly being referred to or referring to the people and the problems and the challenges on a daily basis. And if the government is not delivering, if government can fall today, we have a new government tomorrow. But here, all you have to do is make people poor and take advantage of their poverty, distribute some things to them on election day. For the next 4 years, nobody asks you any question. You behave like a tyrant, you do anything you like. So accountability is one reason why the parliamentary system is a preferred form of government. 2, costs. To get elected, it's only a small constituency, a home constituency, that knows your grandfather, that knows everybody, that knows that in your family, they've been thieves for generations. So we won't vote for that kind of guy. The family is a family of thieves. And so they vote somebody who might be modest, who has no money, who didn't have the money to spread around the country to try and become president. And then that person comes, his colleagues respect his intellect and his capacity, his passion, and they make him leader. And he leads the country. Anytime he feels, the colleagues shove him aside and a new person comes up. So a parliamentary form of government is clearly so much more cost-effective for a democracy than a presidential type system where you have to run around the entire country. And really seriously, look at our world. Who are the democracies that thrive? What kind of democracies are they? I mean, they're majorly parliamentary democracies. And people connect more to parliaments, and parliaments can more readily have the pressure from the people directly than presidential forms of detached ministers who somebody brings from nowhere, and they say, but look, back in the 80s, one of my fun things to do was to go into Nairobi. I had a friend who was a great Kenyan writer, publisher. I used to write a column in Newsweek magazine back in those days. And we both sit at the Thorn Tree Cafe of the New Stanley Hotel. And within an hour, all kinds of ministers, MPs will be coming in and out. They will stop, greet this person, greet that person. How many ministers do you see walking around and having tea in bars around the place, and people will come in and chat with them? Some guy from the street will walk in and say, MP, look, this thing you guys did last week, I'm not sure you guys are really considering, and walk away. And I used to enjoy watching that. I know how many times I've run into Nigerian ministers sitting in some open cafe in some place in Abuja. In fact, not talk of their constituencies. They've all moved from their constituencies to Abuja. They don't even know what's happening in their constituency. They just use them to collect money, so-called constituency projects and stuff. Our democracy is just not working.
Yeah, Professor Utomi.
That's why perhaps a parliamentary system will make it better.
Yeah, I'm being told I have just about 60 seconds to wrap up now. But I'd like to get your practical take on some of the decisions of President Bola Tinubu and some of the indices of the economy I will see. And I would like to also put you on the spot, like I always try to do, because I like to get you upset so that you can, yeah. So I like to put you on the spot.
Become an old man. As you become an old man, like I am becoming, getting upset is a luxury.
All right. So I just have less than 60 seconds. All right, to go. Give us an understanding, Prof, whether or not some of the early steps or the immediate steps of this president is in the right direction. What do you think?
I mean, the different kinds of steps, some make sense, some you worry about. Clearly, there was a general consensus that the business of subsidy was not desirable, but there was a question about how you deliver on removing it. So making it clear that subsidy was not the way to go was a very reasonable thing to do. And I think there was a fair consensus about doing that. Maybe some disagreement on how it was done. I think that there was too much of a rush to please Washington and Paris. Very frankly, I think that that was a downer on some of the early policy choices that were made. And that is because of the scramble for some legitimacy. And I think that in the end, people are coming down, going past that desperation for the legitimacy.
Yeah. Prof, I must sincerely thank you for your thoughts. You will not get tired. All will not get tired, and will not give up on Nigeria, because it's all our project.
You don't
and as long as we're here,
I've ended that move to an island in the Caribbean to go and just sit quiet.
No, you will not go. You go and come back. You are wearing a fedora. You're looking like a Niger Delta man. So you are a Nigerian Utomi. You go nowhere, Professor Utomi. I declare right here. But thank you so much, Prof. It's a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate your time tonight.